This is Eric Rutan of Cannibal Corpse. You are listening to the Scars and Guitars podcast with Andrew McKay Smith.
G'day everybody, thanks for joining me, really appreciate it. I've got a chat with Astennu to share with you. Astennu must be credited as one of the most important figures in Australian extreme metal history. He moved from Sydney to Norway in the late 90s and he featured on a series of albums from the Covenant, Carpe, Tenebrum, and the big one, Dimmu Borgir. And of course, we touch on all of that throughout this chat. He'll share his thoughts, feelings, and recollections on performing on the albums, the personnel, touring the world, the whole thing. The catalyst for the chat, though, is due to the resurrection of Lord Kaos. That's a group that released their debut in 1997, a group from Sydney, and they are back in time for a show in Sydney with David Vincent's I Am Morbid. So we talk about Lord Kaos as well. But yes, this is a conversation that has been a long time coming. I'd long wondered what had happened to Astennu. Well, now I know, and now you can know, because here he is. Let's go. It's been quite the journey for you, hasn't it, over the past, it's 30 years, am I right in saying that you've had this life in extreme metal?
Pretty much, yeah. Yeah, probably started Kaos in 93, yeah.
93, yeah.
Yeah, it would have been around then. I started, playing around, when I first started, you go through heaps of people in bands and garages and trying to find people that you want to play with. It was hard for me because I started playing just in like cover bands, like, just thrash bands. Everyone I grew up with, it was all thrash, and like even Slayer was too heavy for them. So I had to branch out and find other people who weren't at school or friends. So you had to start going in drum media and stuff and just looking for ads and looking for other people going to gigs that are more heavier. But yeah, once I started to find out, there was other people that had, liked heavier stuff. That's where I started to go, yeah, this is where it's at. Just enjoyed it.
You were an outlier amongst outliers, given that the extreme metal scene in Australia back in those days, and I was around back then, I certainly wasn't playing in the bands, but I was an admirer, and to your point, used to read the drum media and Time Off and these magazines and used to see the ads. And I mean, the big one, of course, was Sadistic Execution. But outside of that, there wasn't really any bands of any, when I say great prominence, you know what I'm talking about. There was Psychrist and a few of these bands and the Warhead Records label, and we'll talk about that in due course, of course.
Sure.
But your journey, man, I remember talking to, I think her name is Julie in the Hammer House. Back in the day.
Julie,
yeah, I remember talking to her, and she was a lovely lady, and she was explaining to me that, you got to get this album when it comes out. It's got this guitarist on it, and it was the Lord Kaos, Thorns of Impurity. And she said, yeah, he's not here anymore. He's gone over to Norway. And I was like, wow, how could an Australian go over to Norway? What's the link there? What's the connection there? And then I started to see your name pop up more and more and more. And then you had Spiritual Black Dimensions, I think was the album, was it? It was
I did Godless Savage Garden first, and then we did Spiritual. But yeah, Spiritual was the main one. And I think, I had Nexus Polaris with Covenant was just before that as well.
Yeah, and they were a band that really disappointed me, to be quite honest with you, because the Nexus Polaris was a fantastic album. And then they switched into this Marilyn Manson sort of a thing.
Well, that's why I stopped playing there.
Okay. Yeah, because
anyway,
I remember
we'll get into that as well.
yeah, I know. Like a lot of things will sort of come through quickly because you're one of those guitarists that I've just had an awareness of for so long. But that'd be do you want to talk about Lord Kaos first or your journey first? What's the preference for you?
Well, I'm good to go with whatever, mate. So you just go for it, and we can go from there.
So, Lord, to paint the picture, I think Thorns of Impurity is one of the greatest symphonic black metal albums ever recorded, and that came out at a time when Nemesis Divina was pretty much the benchmark. So when I think of symphonic black metal, of course, you've got Emperor. Okay, they're a bit of a separate beast because they've almost transcended black metal in some ways. But when I think about Nemesis Divina and Thorns of Impurity, they're the two that I hold up as being guitar-driven symphonic black metal masterpieces. Okay, so you were long gone, I think, by the time the album was released, so correct me if I'm wrong. But now you're here, you're back again, and now is this you just reclaiming your space? So is that the catalyst behind returning?
Yeah, basically, I've never stopped writing music or creating music, but I just wasn't in the right place to put everything together and feel comfortable enough to go, I can do this now. And yeah, basically, and the album got re-released like a few months ago on Nuclear War Productions, and that came out. I wasn't really involved with repressing that, but then the old guys from the band, they got in touch with me and told me what they were doing, and I said, okay, this sounds all right. How about yeah, we put it back together and see how it goes. And yeah, I started. The more I started thinking about it, the more I started getting into it. It was like, no, this is cool. And I had just finished writing an album last year. For some reason, I spent 6 months and just wrote a complete new album, but I just didn't know what to do with it. And when this come back into the fold, I was like, okay, now it's time to do this properly again. So yeah, it's the last few months has just been putting everything back together, putting equipment together, redoing all the old tracks and everything. It's been a lot of work.
What was we talk about reclaiming your space, though, but was there an impetus or a catalyst behind that? In other words, were you getting a lot of fan mail and people going, you've got to do this, mate?
Oh yeah, but that's always happened. But yeah, particularly once the re-release of of Thorns and Purity come out, it was just like, yeah, I don't have I've never had social media or anything before, so it's not like I've been contactable in that way. So but yeah, people were interested in it, and I thought it'd be something. Yeah, I just thought it'd be something to do again, something for myself. Yeah, kind of like hobby-ish. I always enjoyed it, so I just thought, right now is the right time to do it. I'm in a position where I can do it, so I was happy to have a go at it. It's not as easy as I thought it was going to be, but nothing ever is, man. Like, you start, to do that album, like we did that in 95. So the way I wrote that album, put it together, produced it, I don't have any of that stuff anymore. So I had to start from scratch again, like just to do all the live stuff and put it back together. So that's been pretty challenging, but it's been fun and nostalgic as well. I'm looking forward to playing some shows.
Yeah, I saw the group a couple of times back in the day through 97 and 98. There was a show with Destroyer 666 in particular at the Forest Inn at Bexley.
Yeah.
I remember that one quite well because it was a Destroyer show and they do fuck all shows in Australia, as you know.
Yeah.
So I remember, if I'm not mistaken, they were using backing tracks. So is that what you're planning on doing this time around, or have you got the keys and stuff?
No, it's just a 3-piece. So there's backing tracks, the same as the original. Like, I don't know. I don't know. I know that they got a full band together after I had left, but no, I'm just doing it how it all originally was. Same as the album. It's basically the same as the album was done as well. And we played here for 2 or 3 years, doing it that way. And look, as soon as people have heard that this is re-happening, I've got drummers, keyboarders, players everywhere going, let me do it. I'm just saying, no, we're doing it the way that we started off.
Okay. Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised that there'd be people crawling out of the woodwork to help, because especially the guys in the Amenta, I've had a conversation with awesome guy, the guitarist, but we're both
Eric?
Big fans of the group. It might be Eric. Name another. I've done so
I don't know anyone else in that band. Eric, I know Eric very well. Yeah, we've hung out a lot, and I just seen him at Emperor, and yeah, they've got a new EP coming out, which is there's going to be some interesting stuff on that there. Put it that way.
Yeah, and for you're actually supporting David Vincent and his I Am Morbid vehicle as well. So how did that come about?
Just Bleed. I think Bleed Productions or whoever's putting it on, got in contact with me and said, "Boy, I heard that you're getting back together, you're writing new stuff. He's planning to play live." And I said, hell yeah. And he goes, do you want to play this show? And I said, yeah, let's do it, because needed something to go, okay, now we've got a date where everything has to be done by, like, it's a goal to get to, you know what I mean? So that was the first thing. So yeah, I know I think it's about 8 weeks away, but yeah, it's taken me probably the last one or 2 months to put everything really together, and it's almost done now. So we start rehearsing next week. So yeah, it'll be fun.
You feeling a bit nervous about it all?
No, not at all. No, I'm fine with it. I've done it. I've played enough shows to, yeah. Oh, look, maybe a little bit once it gets closer, but no, it's if you do the work and you know what you're doing, I think if you prepare for it, you should be fine.
Mm. Yeah, I reckon. So say good day to Bill Hudson too. I haven't spoken to him in a long time, but I've done a few interviews with him in a few text exchanges, and he strikes me as a nice fella too, and he's playing in that group these days. So
yeah, he is,
yeah. So the other question is, you left Dimmu, correct me if I'm wrong, around 2003, 2004.
Sometime around there, yeah.
And then I'm drawing on my memory here, you were part of a coalition of musicians, is probably the best way to describe it, in Infernal Method. And then I didn't hear anything about you
for a while.
Yeah, and then I didn't hear anything about you up until now. So is it just family life and work?
No, after that, I was just recording pretty much. In the early from halfway through the noughties up to about 2010, 11, I was set my own studio. I was just recording, metal, but a lot of hardcore stuff. I did that for a while. And then, 2011, I sold that studio and, just started taking it easy, man. Like, I was over recording bands. It would just become like anything else. They just say, I just want to sound like this or sound like that. And you just started pushing record button. And when you start not really caring, but just going through the motions, it's time to get out.
Yeah.
It's like, there was like I did the Infernal album first go, and I did other albums where you could really get into and produce it. That's what I would like. But a lot of bands would just start turning up and say, "Oh, let's just make it sound like the band before that you're done," and it was just like, it wasn't fun anymore. And then from after that, I kind of got out of it altogether.
You do have a globally recognised name as a killer guitarist, though. So were you getting any offers from?
Oh, yeah, always.
But significant acts? Were any significant acts reaching out to you the level of Dimmu?
When I first wasn't playing Dimmu anymore, I got a few offers here and there, but right at that time, I wasn't interested at all in playing anywhere. I moved back to Australia and I took a year or two of just pretty much doing nothing, just to get everything straight and head and everything again. And I did that last Carpe album, and then after that, I didn't record anything for a while.
So you've been in music the entire time, but you switched from being behind the guitar to being behind the desk effectively for these past 20 odd years or so.
Yeah, I've always, like, I'll still like be mixing like at least one album a year. I'll always do one album a year at the moment, but now I've got back into it, like doing our own stuff. We're pretty much nearly almost finished doing an EP that's going to come out first with Lord Kaos, and I've got the next album already done. Yeah. I'm just waiting off on that. So I've just been getting back into doing the recording thing.
You got labels and distribution lined up already for these things?
I've got some offers. I'm just not sure which ones to go with yet, especially with this first EP. I'd probably like to do the first EP with more Australian label.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah, I'm not sure. Like, it's just going to be, it's just 5 songs, and it's just songs that I've had for a while that I just want to get out of the way. I think they should be recorded and put out there, and that should come out in the next couple of months. But album should be start of next year, and then I'll try and go with something more out there.
That's interesting. You take that strategy. I would have. This is only me as an outsider looking in. Yeah. Maybe because you're right in my era of extreme metal, the cachet that I associate with the band, and indeed you, is probably a lot higher than maybe you see yourself. So what I'm thinking is Nuclear Blast or Prosthetic Records or somebody like that, surely, or Blood Blast, the subsidiary to Nuclear Blast, but just to ensure you get that European in all the right pages in the European press.
Sure. Yeah. As I said, there's options out there, and look, I'm sure that I'll talk to a lot of them and see what's going. But yeah, I'm just not really worried about that at the moment. You know what I mean? Like, I know it's not nothing. I don't take anything for granted. I know that someone will put out my stuff, but it's just something I'm not thinking about right now. I'm just thinking about trying to get this new stuff down and really just playing live. I just want to get out playing live around here again. Yeah, I think it's something that we need to do. I'm just trying to go back because before Thorns of Impurity, we put out a demo. So I'm just trying to replicate that same thing of back then, just do like a 5-song EP and then do an album after that.
Yeah, it's a nice thing to do. It's also about creating the legacy too, isn't it? You've got an artifact there for all time, effectively. I talk about that a lot on the podcast because albums, whether we like it or not, for a certain demographic, pretty much whatever, we're Gen X, but whatever's below us, Gen Z and Gen Y and Millennial, whatever the fuck they are, they love Spotify. And they love singles, they love once-off. So there's this whole conversation around release strategy and the like that you've got to consider. But it's like me with the podcast, right? I do no marketing. We're going to put it out there. Whoever finds it, finds it. And it sounds like you've sort of taken a similar tack with what you're doing with the music.
Yeah, and also I've got to brush up on like how it works today. It doesn't work like it used to, obviously. You know what I mean? So I'm learning a lot as well about that side of it. Then you can do a lot of self-promotion yourself, you have to. So yeah, that's why I'm saying I'm sure I'll get to that in the next couple of months. But right now I'm just trying to get everything put together properly and not rush anything.
Yeah, I can appreciate that.
So
yeah,
try not to make mistakes. I know I will, but as I said, I'm just learning all the way that stuff works now. So
it's just great to see you back, and I think a lot of fans are going to feel the same way, particularly because your resume is quite impressive. When from an Australian standpoint, nobody's got a resume like you. The only other person I can think of is Matt Wilcock. He's the only other bloke who's done with Acre Cocker and Berserker, and there's a few other things that I think that he's done as well. But globally recognised international brands, let's face it, because that's the way social media works. And you've got that cachet too, but you've got it from a time where I call it the supernova. So that millennial period. So from 1997, 1998 to about 2002, when extreme metal roared back in after grunge and electronica sort of blew everything apart. And the Rolling Stone was convinced that rock and metal were antiquated, dead forms of music and all the rest of it. And you were part of that coalition of musicians that helped spearhead that, though. So probably nobody's framed it this way, but if it wasn't for your playing on those Dimmu records, same thing with Cradle of Filth, Satyricon, would extreme metal have continued to sound the way that it does now? Probably not. So I made this point with Michael Ammett, extreme metal in a lot of ways, it's been redefined through your playing.
Yeah, well, I don't know. Yeah, as I said, I get a lot of that. Because at the time, especially with Dimmu, extreme metal, a lot of guitarists weren't playing melodic solos and things like that as well. So I think I get a lot of questions, messages about, solos, and, people say that, you're the only person that done it or started doing that. It was just something I always done, I grew up listening to guitar players that played that way. And when I went to Norway and stuff, everyone played guitar, but no one played melody. And I was like, well, yeah, I'm going to change that. Not on purpose, but that's just how I've always done it.
The Swedes tended to get into that, didn't they? The Norwegians were more about the angular shit, yeah.
Well, yeah, I always said that Norwegians write songs, Swedish people play instruments. You know what I mean?
So true, yeah.
Because
great insight.
I know some really bad guitar players, guitar players, really bad guitar players that write the best songs ever, and they're all from Norway. And then I know a lot of Swedish players who are really great guitar players, but songwriting's not as good. Not always, but there's that's just how I always seen it. And that's not putting shit on left or right. It's all who they are. It's just that's just different people have different ways of doing what they're doing.
Well, you were there. You were in and amongst it all, mixing with the musicians, helping them write songs. I mean, your handiwork is across Nexus Polaris, puritanical misanthropy. I always get the
Yeah.
the cadence of that word incorrect. But and then what was the one after that? I had Barker on drums. What was that one called?
No. Barker's on puritanical.
Puritanical.
So,
yeah.
I did godless and spiritual, and puritanical. I wrote a lot of puritanical too. So it's all there's a lot of my fingerprints over it. Yeah.
It's very interesting. So I classify, and I got to know Stuart Anstis before he passed away. God bless his soul.
Yeah, he's a great guy.
Oh, you knew him?
Yeah, we played lots of shows together.
Shit, what was he? What were your experiences like with him?
Oh, very good. Yeah, he was a great guy, man. You know, like everyone else that age, in late 90s, were always partying, hanging out. Dimmu and Cradle played a lot back in the late 90s. It was very strange because we did play a lot together, and then once we got to a certain point, then we kind of didn't play together anymore. They were doing their shows, we're doing ours, but we played with them a lot. I think the first show I played with Dimmu was Dimmu, In Flames, Dissection, and Cradle of Filth. So
wow, that's a hell of a lineup, and
it was all on great albums too. Like with Dimmu, it was Enthroned. I was playing Enthroned tour, and In Flames, it was their first album, which is my favorite, and Dissection, it was Storm the Light's Pain, which is their best thing.
Well, that's a landmark,
yeah. That's just, man, getting to watch that every day is amazing. I'm glad I got to do that. And Cradle of Filth, it was dusk, so it was amazing. You know, I got to watch Nick every day, Stu every day. Sarah as well. It was good hanging out with them guys. But Stu was always helpful, man, and he'd always, not everyone in that band was always talky or come hang out with you, but Stu and Gian and Sarah always did.
Yeah. I've been talking to Sarah for a while now about
she's
her.
Great. I just talked to her today. She's great.
Right. Okay. Well, please say if you do again, no obligation, of course, but say I said g'day. I mean, she's unsure about coming on the show because she knows that I'll ask all the questions. And
I know. I know. And Sarah is she's great, but one thing I do like about her, she'll open her mouth and tell the truth, and some people don't like that.
Yeah, I know. I've just told her though that like I've said, because I've had interview conversations with, when I say most of the important Cradle people from back in those days.
Yeah,
Les, I haven't got to Les yet. Les just is impossible to interface with. But John Kennedy and Sarah are the two outliers at the minute. And,
John's great.
Yeah, John I'm talking to quite a bit, but it's just getting the commitment to lock in a time. And Sarah, it's the same. You know. Eventually it'll happen, and she's another one who knows where all of the bodies are buried, if you know what I'm saying. So.
Yeah, that's what I mean. So and sometimes it's, you know, back in the day it was my problem as well. Like I'm opinionated about stuff, and I open my mouth sometimes when I shouldn't, because everyone thinks that, you know, don't talk about baseball, like inside baseball, you know what I mean? Like, but sometimes if you hear stuff that's not right, you got to say it, you know?
Well, the conversation I had with Stuart was groundbreaking from that perspective, in that he shared it all. He didn't give a shit anymore. And he was polite about it all. He just spoke it's not even his truth. He spoke what his perspective on things is.
Yeah, exactly.
And it's a huge resonance in the community. There was a stage there where I get 1 or 2 messages a day about that chat. There's a 4-hour-long chat that I posted, and he just went there and he said it. And he didn't get along with Gian at all, or John. John is his name. And he just said it how it was, as far as he was concerned. And I think that's really important, that you own your turf on that regard, because, there's these, especially when members leave bands, for example, just talking about Cradle of Filth, the narrative that Danny Filth put out there when Barker, Les, and Stuart left was that they weren't writing songs. And it turns out that's a lie. It's just a flat out lie. But they didn't have the connections to the media at the time, or maybe they didn't care to actually set that record straight. So that was out there for a long time, until 2017, when I spoke to Stuart and he said, fuck off, we'd written tons of songs. It was just the dynamic had shifted. And maybe Faye Wolven I don't know.
Faye's got a lot to do with it, I think.
Well, I have messaged her a few times, and I'm always respectful of people's privacy. I'm not a stalker, for God's sakes, but a bit like what happened with you guys in Nexus, in the Covenant. 1 minute, this unbelievable band, Cradle of Filth, are playing this new wave of British heavy inspired black metal. The next minute, they're dressing like Danny Filth's got his nipples cut out of his PVC outfit and shit. And it's like, for a bloke like me, I haven't changed much. I still look pretty much dressed the way I do now back then and stuff. And I'm like, what the fuck is going on? Like, is this an appeal to the Oxford Street Brigade, or what is it? I don't understand what's actually happening here. So it was just confronting, wasn't it? And did you feel that way with the Covenant?
Yeah, like for me, it happened really quickly. Like we were starting to write for Animatronic. I have a few songs on there. I think we were starting to write, and I was out just, I think it was a Saturday night or something. I've gone to the local pub at Elm Street where we all hang out, and I just seen, Nagash walk through the door, and he looked like Marilyn Manson. I said, "What's going on here?" And then Blackheart, the same thing. They just went, "Oh, we're going to do this now," and they showed me what they kind of wanted to do, and I was like, "This doesn't look good, man." And I love Hellhammer to death, man. He's the nicest guy on the planet. He's great. He's but seeing him with pink eyeshadow on that cover really it was like, what's going on?
Yeah, I remember it. I distinctly recall I was on an aeroplane of all places. I remember the moment when I saw the interview, and I saw Hellhammer with that purpley mascara shit on. Yeah. I was like, is this him? I know he's in the band, but have they brought somebody else in to look like him, but with, just all the shit on or something? And I can't understand why, from a market, because it's all about marketing and the presentation to the public. I can't understand why Cradle and bands like the Covenant went in that direction. What were they inspired by? I get the Marilyn Manson, but it wasn't popular. Marilyn Manson has never been popular with metal fans.
Rammstein.
And I go, yeah, they don't. But people like you and I think I bought one Rammstein record, Senstück or whatever it's called. Sorry for all the German listeners.
No, they've got one good album. Their first album is really good.
Yeah, I think it was the second one I think I got. Yeah, the one with Du Hast on it. Yeah, and great. It sounded okay, but then I think I might have bought the follow-up and I was lost by then. I was like, no, it's not really for me.
Yeah.
It's
they only have one album for me because the guitar, the guitaring on their first album, the riffs are just all downstroke right-hand riffs, and they're great.
Yeah. But I think the point still stands, though, is that extreme metal fans didn't really get into those outfits.
No, understandably.
Whereas extreme metal fans did love Cradle, Dimmu Borgir. Sorry, it's raining here at the moment. I should close the window. All these bands that you were a part of, and they sort of was this shift very early on. And it was confusing because it was like, you can't be serious. You can't be chasing these fans because they don't care about extreme metal. They're the Korn fans. They're probably going to listen to Limp Bizkit next or what have you, or they have a playlist or whatever it might be, but they're not invested. So, and I think that's the point. And to me, I could be wrong here, Jay. Okay, so tell me if you think I'm wrong here, but I feel like as though it put a cap on their success.
Oh, 100%. 100%. But the thing is, they, at the same time, in Norway, for Nexus Polaris, we won Metal Album of the Year at all the award shows. And then Animatronic actually won Metal Album of the Year at the award shows as well the next year. So to them, they thought that was working. So yeah, it is what it is. I wasn't interested in doing that stuff, but also at that time, Nagash was playing in Dimmu, I was playing in Covenant, and there was a time where we had to choose one way or the other anyway. So he was always going to choose Covenant because that's his baby, and I was always going to choose Dimmu because I just enjoyed playing that band a lot. Plus we played more. It was more of a rolling machine at that point. So yeah, I wasn't living in Norway to hang out and do stuff. I was there to play.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I can't just take 6 months off, mate. I've got to play shows. I've got to make a living,
Yeah. Yeah, it's still. I watched that video today. It's hilarious. There's the band The Covenant on stage, and then there you are, and they're all dressed in all of their Marilyn Manson outfit, and you're looking like the full black metal outfit with the.
Because we just finished. Dimmu just finished playing. I remember, and so basically before they did the awards, or before they announced the winner, Dimmu had just played. So basically. And then they give out the award, and then they said, winner's Covenant. And I started walking over because I was part of that band as well. And the producers are like, "What are you doing?" They thought I was going over there to beat them up or something. You know what I mean? And I was like, no, I'm still playing there. But yeah, that's where it all started to change, man. Like when seeing that stuff, that's how I seen them a few weeks before or whatever. And yeah, it was weird.
Wow, shit. Okay, yeah, no, that makes that answers that question, because I always sort of wondered what the hell happened there, and I figured it must have been something to do with that. But then I don't know, it might have also been that Dimmu's management said, like the Metallica thing, you guys can't play in other bands, you got to play in this band. But no, you've answered it, so there you go.
No. Basically, it was that has come up, but
right.
At that point in time, because I think when we were recording Nexus. I got a phone call from Satir, and they were going out on Nemesis Divina tour, and they needed a guitar player to just play live.
Yeah,
and I was like, hell yeah, you know what I mean? Like, we made. He goes, come out, play with us live. You know what I mean? Because I Dimmu wasn't playing for the next 6 weeks or something, and we Covenant wasn't going to because we just finished. We were halfway through recording Nexus, and I was like, yeah, sure. The dates would work out, but yeah, the guys in Dimmu said if you play with Satyricon, then you'll be out of Dimmu.
That's a sliding doors moment. Do you see it that way?
No, look, for me it wasn't a letdown because I'm not playing with Satyricon at that time. It was for me that was like a good 6 weeks. 6 weeks of pay that I could pay my rent. You know what I mean? Because at that time we were doing okay, but not yet. You know what I mean? So that was the thing I was most disappointed about, that they didn't understand that I was just doing this for a job and to get experience. But they were like, no, you can't play there. So calling up Satir and saying I couldn't do it wasn't the best, because even before I joined Dimmu, they were looking for a guitar player, and they had asked me to come and try out, but other stuff got in the way, and but I've always had time for Satir. I know a lot of people have things against him or whatever, but he's always nice to me. He's always helpful. But again, that's how it is there.
Yeah, I think I spent about an hour talking to him in this scenario here, and he was very congenial, mate, and knew a lot about our wines, Penfolds, and he's a wine collector and stuff.
I know.
Yeah, but he sounded like the sort of guy that you wouldn't mind being stuck next to on a flight from Brisbane to Los Angeles, if you know what I mean. So
yeah, exactly. Yeah,
I always sort of
a lot of them older guys are like that. Like, when I was first going to Norway, I used to hang out at the pub a lot because. For the first 7, 8 months, I didn't even have a place. I was just sleeping on couches and staying at the pub until 3 or 4 o'clock in the morning. And if I didn't have anywhere to go to sleep, I'd just go wait till the train station open at 5 and just go hang out there. And there'd always be this guy that would turn up like at 5:30, metalhead, and he'd always come up and say hello and go, "Oh, come sit over here," and I would talk to him, man, just about metal, but other stuff like, books and stuff. Like, we just really had the same kind of thing. And after about 2 weeks of every day just talking to this person, it was like a Saturday night, and we were, that's when everyone's there, and was talking to him. And I think it was Naga. She goes, "You know who that guy is, right?" I said, "No, that's Gilbert. It's just the guy I've been talking to for 2 weeks, and it's Fenris." The nicest guy ever. And he's another good. Man. Like, he would turn up and give me books and stuff. Like, we just connected totally. We didn't even know who each other was. Well, at that point, I was nobody. But all them older school people, man, like, they're always nice, man. Garm is one of the nice people in the world as well. From Ulva. Just people that didn't have chips on their shoulder or anything, like to me anyway. But then that's not always the case.
Yeah, familiarity can breed contempt, I think, can't it? From that perspective. Plus, it's so unusual what you did, being an Aussie going to Scandinavia. I mean, this is the mid-90s. Nobody did that except for you.
90s, yeah, I went in 96 for about 3 months and I come back and then, I moved in February 97.
Okay, so mid-late 90s, what have you.
Yeah.
But there must have been a bit of a novelty factor that this bloke from all the way across the world is lobbed up in Norway, can play guitar like a bastard, like Ted Nugent and Randy Rhoads combined. And you've just sort of lobbed up. But were you considered a bit of a novelty in that regard, that you're an Aussie in and amongst all these Scandinavian people?
Maybe, but it worked two ways. There were a lot of people who, were cool with me and encouraged me and helped me out. And there was a lot of people that were like, you're not Norwegian. What are you doing coming in trying to do this shit? And they're just drunk Vikings. And I think that, a lot of them just put it on because they want to think they're hard. But, it's, there was a couple of times where, got hairy, but there's always someone there to settle it down. But yeah, there was people were either really nice or people didn't like you. There was no in between.
Yeah.
But that's how it is in Norway. You know what I mean? It's not like Australia or England or Ireland or somewhere if you had someone that was from another country, and even if he was playing in your band, if you had nowhere to sleep, you just say, look, man, just come and stay with me. In Norway, wow, man, takes a year for them to, for them to really try to help you out. Oh, yeah, man, yeah.
Yeah, well, that makes it even more impressive what you achieved when you were over there. So can you talk about your introduction to Dimmu? In other words, how were you appointed in the band? Did it happen here in Australia or
No, basically, basically we had recorded Thorns of Impurity. Everything was great here, actually. At that time, we were playing to I don't know, man, we could play every weekend in Sydney to 200-300 people. And at the time that was great because no one else was really doing it. So everyone would come out. It was really weird. We'd have metalheads, extreme metalheads, but then half of the crowd would be goth chicks. It was really weird. So the crowd was really split. And it started to take off. We just recorded it, but I did not want to give this album to Warhead Records. That was just something I just never wanted to do. And Metallian from Slayer magazine, of course, you'd know.
Yeah, sure.
He come on a holiday. He come over for a holiday, and he was staying with Sadistic Chris. And basically, we were playing at Agincourt one night, and he was in the crowd, and just he come and watched us. I didn't know he was there, whatever. Next day, I got a call from Chris and said, hey, Metallian wants to come meet you. So we come around the house and, I played him Chaos album. And he was like, head not found, I'll sign you right now. And I'm like, fuck yes. You know what I mean? I was like, yep, sure, not a problem. This is great. Everything just went, this is everything I've been working for.
Yeah.
And I was like, great. And then I called a bass player and he was like, oh, man, this is awesome. This is great. Then I called our singer and he was like, nah, we should give it to Warhead. And I just couldn't believe it. There was, and then he said, okay, yeah. I tried to talk him into it. Even the thought of thinking that I'd have to talk to someone into this is really stupid. But he finally said, okay. So then I got Metallian to come round our house with the other guys just so we could hang out and talk and then just do a handshake agreement, everything. And then, our singer turned up and then he just flat out said, no, I can't do this. I can't sign you. I want to give it to Brad at Warhead. And that's where I was done. I was like, I'm not doing it. I said, I can't do this.
Why couldn't you give it to Brad for Australia?
Well, okay. So that's the next day. So the next day, because I just walked out of my own house at this point, just going, what's going on?
Yeah.
Then the next day I come back and Brad and Italian had got together themselves and they said, okay, Warhead can just do Australia and Head Not Found can do the rest of the world.
Okay.
So we agreed on that. I said, yeah, that's fine. Let's do that. That's fine. But by this time, I was upset. So I was like, yeah, that's cool. That's fine. I already had a holiday booked to go to Norway anyway. I think like a month after that. I just wanted to go on a holiday there just to see what it was about. And then, yeah, like a week after that, I just turned up to bass player's house and just gave him all the equipment and said, look, man, I'm done. I'm out. Here's the equipment. If you just want to keep going, then go for it. Like, because I was I knew that he wasn't, they just weren't going to ever go anywhere. Like, not in a bad way, but I just knew that was a roadblock. Look, they were older than me. I was like 17. They were like 24, 25. They had jobs. They had all this stuff. And to them, it was kind of not a hobby, but like me, I didn't. That's all I did. So yeah, basically, I said, that's it. I quit the band, gave them all the stuff, went to Norway for a holiday, but I already had another album written. So I went to Norway and I was staying at Metallian's house in Sarpsborg. And I said, I've got this album here, listen to it, and said, oh man, like we'll put this out in Head Not Found. Sweet. So that was going to happen. I just had to find a singer. And then, you know the band Ragnarok?
Yes. Yep.
From Sarpsborg. They were recording their album, and Shagarath was playing keyboards on it in the studio. So, and he was staying at Metallian's house for a couple of days just while he did the studio tracks. And I was staying at Metallian's as well. And just, yeah, after a recording session one night, he come back to the house and he was sleeping on the floor, like on a mattress in a sleeping bag. And I was just up, just playing guitar. Like I always played guitar back then, like hours and hours. And I thought he was asleep and everything. He wasn't asleep. He was just there listening to me. And then, the next day, 2 days after that, I got a call from Naga saying, hey, man, I've got these people putting this Covenant band together, like with proper people, like with Hellhammer and Svard and stuff. He goes, you want to come and try it, like come and play guitar with us? I was like, fuck yes. So I, 2 or 3 days later, I went to a rehearsal room and it was me, Hellhammer, Nagash, and Blackheart, and we just jammed and that was perfect. Everything was great. And then I said, look, man, like, I'd love to play in this band. And they're like, yeah, fuck yeah, no problem. So I said, okay, just give me a month. I'll go back home and do what I have to do and I'll be back. And I did that. And then at the same time, I said, hey, Nagosh, I need someone to record on this, vocals on this album for me. Will you do it? He said, yeah. So that was the first Carpe album, Majestic Nothingness, which is being re-released next month.
Uh-huh. Okay, who's that through? Yeah.
Nuclear War. Same as the Lord Kaos one, Nuclear War production. So vinyl, CD, tapes, everything.
Sweet.
So, but yeah, so then I just come back to Australia, sold everything except for a guitar and a bag, and probably had like, I don't know, $1,000 or something. And I just got on a plane and left everything. And then, just kept jamming with Covenant for a while. And then, Dimmu had to do an Enthroned tour. And one night out at the pub, Shagarath just said, man, will you come play guitar on this tour? Because I don't want to play guitar anymore. I just want to sing. And I said, yeah, sure. Nagash is going to be there too. So it's not going to conflict with anything. So yeah, I'll come play, and did that tour and got back, and I just didn't leave the band. Like, no one said anything. I just kept turning up to rehearsals and writing stuff, and that was it. There was no like, you're in the band. I just stuck, I suppose.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's pretty much it, man.
A
I
bit
think
of
that's
fatalism about all of this, isn't there? Yeah. That the sliding doors moment seems like it was the decision by the rest of the band and Lord Kaos to sign with Warhead as it turns out, Australia, and that was the compelling event for you to jet off on a plane. So it begs the question. I mean, what did your family, what did your parents say? You're such a young fella going over to such an unknown part of the world.
I wasn't living with my parents at that time anyway, mate. I didn't. Trust me, at that time, I didn't care about anything. Didn't care about girlfriends. Didn't care about anyone. I was just like, I'm doing this. Like, I just walked out of a room with like playing with Hellhammer. You can go screw yourself. I'm out of here. Like, yeah, not in a bad way. I just said, look, I'm going, and no one said anything. And it was strange. Like, it was weird letting go of all my friends. And plus, this is Australia, so tall poppy syndrome starts kicking in with your mates as well. So then they start fobbing you off, and you know what I mean?
Is that right? That's terrible.
When I first came back here, man, you'd go to a gig and all your friends would just shake your hand as hard as they could to show you they were a man and just walk on.
Wankers.
Yes.
Wow. Isn't that, from a fan's perspective, I'm fairly patriotic, so I just was like, fucking Aussies doing this. This is fantastic.
Yeah, no. That's not how it works, man.
It's a bit different now. There's a lot of bands, Australian bands, Die Artist Murder and Aversion's Crown, and these extreme, and they're all extreme metal bands. It just depends on the flavour of extreme metal you like. But look, in my experience, or everybody seems very, very cool these days, but I'm definitely on a periphery on the outside. But I bump into a ton of people, as I say, Matty Wilcock, and these people have been nothing but just fantastic to me, sending me stuff.
As I said, they should, and we are. It's like, as I said, it's just.
But it was back then.
Yeah, some people that feel like they got left behind or something. I don't know.
Yeah, but you're not wrong. Back then, people go on about the good old days. I think they were shit. It's much better now. With your story being the exception, I remember being in a pub somewhere and some bloke was telling me that Cryogenic were a shit band and his band were much better. I'm like, I don't even know this fucking dickhead. Yet he's ratting on Cryogenic, who I'd just seen. And they tore the floorboards up, I can assure you. They did a great job. And this guy, and I was like, and then you hear this other band that reckoned that they had something like, I don't know whether it was streams or downloads or something like that. There was some band, an Australian band. It was all just bullshit. And then there was the zeitgeist for me with the Australian music scene, and God help me for saying this, that highlighted that it wasn't that great, was the Cradle of Filth gig in 1997. Because that fucking promoter,
could you?
Yeah, at Salinas, he put on about 8 or 9 bands before them. Yeah. When really it was completely unnecessary. Lord Kaos are one of the bands, by the way. And it was too much, man, and the quality wasn't there. It really wasn't. As a fan, it just wasn't there. You had the band that sounded like Morbid Angel. You had the band that mimicked this other band, and Segression were there as well. And none of it fit. None of it quite fit. It was billed as a festival. I know that's the de jour thing to do these days, but this is back before it was trendy to do that. And I remember talking to Stu about it. He's like, yeah, great gig, but we went on. What time did they go on? About 1 o'clock or 1:30 or something like that? It was nuts.
As I said, I don't know, but the only thing I remember about that, and the only reason why I know about it, is because I think Brad wrote me a letter at Metallians or something and going like, oh, Lord Kaos is playing with Cradle of Filth. And I'm like, that's before like anyone had known that I started playing in these bands. So they thought it was like my bad for leaving the band where I would have played a shitty gig at Salinas with Cradle of Filth, And so that was quite funny.
I remember that night well because we were all exhausted. My mates and I we didn't drink back then because I was driving, and I was just absolutely exhausted. I mean, it was a grand thing to see Nick Barker and Stuart Answers in action, no doubt. And I still, thank God, I've got that memory. And it was a very memorable gig for Stuart too. He remembered everything about it because it reminded him of being on the shores of Devon, where he's from. Yeah, and he talked about that, and I think that was one of those moments where he realised that, hey, we're actually doing it. Those moments in time where you just sort of stop and go, wow, we're actually doing this. So, but yeah, the scene back then, I'm sorry, it's I bought a lot of the Warhead Records stuff with the greatest of respect to the bands and to the label. I don't listen to a lot of it these days. It hasn't survived to this day with the exception of your stuff. I listen to your stuff periodically, and I'd put it on a couple of times a year and thank God it's on Spotify. If that's your work putting it on there, thank you for doing that, by the way.
No, it's not. I don't think it is. I've got to work that stuff out.
Well, I hope someone's paying you, mate, for it, put it that way. So, but I'm probably responsible for about a quarter of the streams on there at the minute. So.
That's all right. No, as I said, it's just stuff like that. Like I said, like this whole thing is a steep learning curve for me, because obviously when I was playing overseas, there was always someone to take care of everything for you, mate. Like, and that's why it's good actually just sitting back and just trying to, learn what's going on now and how to do it. So it's kind of a steep learning curve, but it's something that's cool to work out yourself too.
Yeah. Do you get? I've sort of asked this question already, but do you get a lot of mail from international listeners, people who are very familiar with your work in Dimmu and Covenant? Are they asking you about that? Yeah.
Yeah. Especially, like as I said, like I've never had social media or anything. A bass player just like opened up the Insta account, and then he's like, "I'm really busy," and he gave it to me. So I'm all new to it, but yeah, I get smashed. And that's good. Like, it's I try and get back to everyone. It works both ways. It works for them, they get what they want, but it also works for us because it's promotion as well. I've just got to learn how to use it properly. I'm just not that I really care, but I don't mean it in a bad way. It's just it's not something I'm used to yet, but I'll get the hang of it, man, and hopefully starting to enjoy it.
Yeah, I don't worry. I feel the same. I think a lot of people feel the same way. It's the tide moves very, very quickly. The ground underneath your feet can shift before you realise it's shifted.
Yeah.
To reach the audience that you intend on reaching, I constantly get messages, people saying, "God, I wish I knew this show existed." And probably if I put $1,000 a month into it, not that I have that sort of money, but put that sort of money into it, maybe I'd reach all of these people in far-flung places, great fans in countries in South America, Central America, great, like you, mate. You probably, I'm imagining a lot of your messages come through from the United States and Britain.
No, actually, more Eastern Bloc and Europe, Russia, Eastern Bloc, Scandinavia, Europe, but I'd say it's more of that middle European at the moment that I've noticed.
Okay. Yeah, okay. Well, I guess it's the style of music too that it never ever goes out of fashion, does it? Extreme metal in those countries. So,
no, it doesn't. Everything about them is extreme, mate. Just getting up to go to work is probably extreme for them.
Yeah, I love the fans in those parts of the world. I've noticed that. I've had good conversations with Pete from Vader about this, and you travel South America, you travel the Eastern Bloc. I mean, you're getting the real deal in those places, aren't you? You're getting the real fan experience.
South America is that place is completely different than anywhere else that I've played. And some places in Hungary and Estonia, Russia as well. But yeah, I've played a lot of gigs everywhere. But the first time we went to South America, that was different.
Which countries? Is that all the usual places like Brazil, Chile?
Yeah, Mexico. The first one was Mexico, and that was very strange. They're nuts there. They're completely nuts. And after the show, everyone that was in the venue was in the parking lot. And that's fine, but the doors open, this is 2 hours, 3 hours later, and you just want to walk to your bus. Bus is probably just 20, 30 meters away, but it probably took about 2 hours or something. And the promoter's like, "Man, you've this might be different for you, but you've got to sign everything. You got to go through everything. Otherwise, these people will go nuts." And I understand that as well. They're just different people. You know what I mean? But it's just completely different, and they just love it there. They're just passionate about it. It's their life, man.
Yeah, I've noticed that in countries. My wife's family, mother's from the Philippines, and I've spoken to metalheads over there, and countries where they don't have that consumer-based lifestyle of, mate, they live and breathe it in the real sense. So exactly like they live and breathe it the way you did, and it never goes away for them. I've noticed.
No, it's it's crazy. It is crazy. But then I've been to a lot of places like that where Dimmu was frowned upon as well. you know. That part of it was really weird when I went to some countries where you can play in, Germany and do all the normal European stuff, like the West European. You go to some East European countries or South America, there's always wankers that turn up and yeah, like, oh, you're too commercial now, you've sold out, and they just want you to stick a tape in and push play and record in the rehearsal room. And I respect that, and I understand that, but it's like anything else in life. It's like, everyone should respect everyone else's opinions, if you know what I mean. And but yeah, for these people, it's their life, and like, yeah, sometimes they get disappointed, and that's fair enough.
Yeah, I when I say I don't understand it, it's very. There are so many bands out there that sound like they recorded in a dirty pub bathroom through an AM radio. That why don't they go and listen to them rather than trying to convince these other bands to sound like that stuff? See, your music would have suffered terribly, as Cradle's would have, if you'd gone that route and you'd done that Angry Bees in a mayonnaise in a honey jar guitar sound and stuff. And your guitar playing in particular, you're very classically minded with your guitar playing, as I'm sure you're aware. And the sort of modes that you slip into and the like, you can slip into some stuff that it needs to be heard. It needs an oral clarity that only a decent production can bring.
Yeah, that's correct. Plus, I like good production. You can go too far sometimes. It's good to have a happy medium, but I'm all for using what you have to use and doing what you have to do just to get everything clearly through. That's a big part of it. Nexus album is good for that. Like, you can hear everything on that. Spiritual, not so much, but it's still okay.
It was almost there, I'd say.
Yeah, there's two mixes. We went back to mix that a second time. The first mix is better.
What happened? Why did they?
I don't know, man. We got back, I think, after about a week. Me and Shugarath flew back to Abyss Studios and remixed it.
Was that with Pete, was it?
Yeah, it was with Pete, yeah. So I don't know why we went back to remix it. Someone had the idea and we went back to do it, and I probably didn't get all my way. So it is what it is. Look, you can still hear the stuff. It's just a couple of things I wish was a bit different.
Yeah, the keyboards were up too loud in that one.
Well, that's that's one thing. But yeah, because I think that's maybe why we went back. I don't know. At that time, it was just it was decided that we had to go back and do it. So it was just me and him who went. So I don't know. There was three of us, so I'm not sure if I won battles, but it is what it is.
With Puritanical, though, to your point earlier, you worked with Barker, who I mean, really, I know Hellhammer's Hellhammer, but right, Barker's Barker, for fuck's sake.
Barker is Barker. He's the best drummer I've ever played with, and I played with him a lot because he did all the spiritual touring. So we did like 18 months of touring with Barker, and the band never sounded like, by the end of that tour, like, just everything's just machine-like and perfect, and he doesn't make mistakes. He's definitely the best drummer I've ever played with. It's a weird one. Nick is Nick. Nick is very hard to work with as well. Me and him, because he was English, I was Australian. Even before he played in Dimmu, we got along well. I was the middle guy to bring him over to Dimmu, because as soon as everyone found out he wasn't playing Cradle anymore, that was the first thing that popped in our minds, I think. But I was the one who had to call him. I was the one who, had to arrange everything with him in the start, because I talked to him more than the other guys. So, even then, I remember flying him over. Flew him over to Norway, and we went to band practice. I think me, Selenos, and Shugarath, and he played everything perfect first go. So it was like, walked out of there like, wow. But that whole situation, man, I don't know. It's really hard. Like, if I could go back now, I would keep Short off in the band.
Right.
Like, yeah, it's a hard thing to say. And as I said, Nick is a way superior drummer, but the drumming and spiritual isn't bad. You know, the beats are all there, everything's there. Live, there'd be some mistakes and it wasn't as tight, but that's sometimes that's just how things are, man. But sometimes having the best things sometimes isn't always the right thing to do. Or for me personally, like as I said, if I could go back, I think it would have been better just to keep Short off in that band.
Yeah, okay. I've had a couple of interactions with Nick, so I think I've got some insight into what you're talking about.
Yeah.
You just find that, I mean, talk about this as much or as little as you want, but did you just find that things, one day they could be okay and the next day they could be a bit different?
Yeah. It just come down to writing, man. He was living in England. We were in Norway. We were starting to write all the new stuff. We're just doing it I built up a little studio to do pre-production stuff, and then I'd program all the drums. We'd do everything there, then send him the stuff, or I would go there and go to England, just me, and we'd work together. And it was just hard. I was probably a bit hard-headed too at the time, like of like saying, this is my riff, this is the drums I want behind it. And he's like, no, I want to write my own drums. And I get that. I understand it. But sometimes it was just hard-headedness from me personally. I'll take blame for that. But sometimes when you write stuff, and you think it just needs that groove or that beat, and I've just been used to writing that way my whole life before that, you know what I mean? And with Short off, it was easy because you'd write something and just say, say I want this beat or this beat, and he would play it. And not saying that he didn't write any of his own drums, like all the drums are his, but he was easy to go along with, I suppose. Nick was just a bit more, I'm the drummer, I'm writing it. And look, I'd probably be the same way if I was playing drums. So, this isn't in any way, it's not a thing about Nick. Like, as I said, like he's the best drummer I played with. And if you go have a look at some like live Dimmu stuff from '99 with him playing, especially the one in Detroit, there's one of us playing a whole set on YouTube from Detroit. It's just locked in and it's perfect. Like, it sounds like a machine, and it is what it is. But look, we just had a problem, man. So
it sounds like it was personality conflicts within the paradigm of within the songwriting paradigm. It wasn't when you guys were on tour buses or flights together, or those barroom conversations or anything like that. I think because he probably spoke to you all about what the hell happened in Cradle of Filth, but Danny still throws him under the bus. Look, Nick has told me specifically, and it's out there, it's got over 10,000 views on YouTube already, my conversation with him. It wasn't his choice to record the drums the way that they sound. Yet Danny's still, in recent interviews, like I'm talking in the last few weeks, he's throwing him under the bus around the drum sound on Cruelty and the Beast. I understand why Nick has his perspective on things, I've got to say. I do, because I think he is the greatest drummer in extreme metal. He and Pete Sandoval, I've got to say.
Well, yeah, that'd be Pete's my favorite. So
yeah. I think to an extent, my opinion, of course, because I'm saying it, of course it is, but I feel like he's been denied his place in the pantheon of all-time extreme metal greats. Okay, and
well, yeah. See, I don't think that because. Look, I don't think that because I hold him, like, as I said, up there, like him and Pete, Derek Roddy. There's others, but Nick's up there for me, man. So I I don't see it from that way. So it's just weird that you'd say that. Like, but yeah, I suppose like I haven't listened to other people or of what they've been saying, but yeah, I think he's great.
Yeah, oh, look, it could just be the perception that I've formed, and I could be completely wrong on that too. Okay, maybe he does get his just due out there, and certainly via the listening numbers, he was one of the most listened conversations that I've ever recorded, and fantastic fella to get to know. But yeah, I know he's, that it hasn't always been easy for the poor bastard either, and I think being kicked out of, he left Cradle, I should say, but he didn't leave in a way that he wanted to leave.
No, I don't think he did. No,
and he wanted the accounting to be sorted out too. That's the other thing. Sorry, that's really what I'm sort of talking about. And all this stuff's out there as a matter of public record, And he felt that he, Stu, and Les, when they left, they should have left as a block because he left a couple of months before the other two, and they should have audited the books on that one there. And that's what I can't understand. What the hell Danny's got. Even Paul Allender's got stories for days if you know Paul Allender at all.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, but he doesn't really want them out there on the public domain. So
that's fair enough as well.
He's driving trucks in the Midwest of the United States these days, you know that. And one of the most gifted guitarists in the genre, and he's got his own thing going on. There's no doubt about that. And he's got a label behind him, Black Lion, I think it is records over there in the States. But his axis of his life has shifted greatly after his experience with Cradle, and I think he feels as though he's left a lot of it behind, which, as I say, is a shame, But at least Barker's still sort of got irons in the fire with Brujeria, I think, and there might be one other band out there that he's still sort of in. But I just long felt, now when I say that he's denied his place in the pantheon of all time greats, Hellhammer's still in Mayhem, that sort of thing. Yeah. I'd love for Nick to be part of like a Dimmu or maybe not Cradle these days. Yeah, you know where I'm coming from.
I do understand what you mean,
yeah. It's just that no shade toward Brujeria or anything like that. But you want to Nick is a headline act. There you go.
Oh, definitely. As I said, like the first, I think, I basically every time I've seen Cradle with Nick playing, I've never seen them from out the front. I would just go grab a crate and sit right next to him and just watch him the whole time. Like that's
the show.
Same as Pete. Every time I see Morbid, like I just sit there and watch him. Like it's amazing.
You mentioned a band earlier on, and I wanted to ask Jon Nödtveidt, I think he's pronounced his surname. Yeah. What did you have many interactions with him?
Oh yeah, plenty. Yeah, I met him before. The first time I went to Norway on holiday and I was staying at Metallion's, I remember I think we went somewhere like to see something like holidays, and Metallion took me somewhere. And then when we come back, standing at the front of Metallion's house was John and these two friends, two brothers from another Swedish band. Was it Morbid?
Oh, I'm not sure. Yeah, there's some.
No. But I'm just saying, I'm trying to think. And I was in the car and I said, "That's John." He goes, "Yeah." I said, "What's he doing?" He goes, "I don't know." He just popped over and got out of the car, and he was just like, "Oh yeah, man, we just drove over from Sweden to come visit Metallion, man." So yeah, I spent a couple of days with him. Then just mind blown, because Storm of the Light's band's one of my favorites ever. And then I didn't see him again until we did that first tour, and I got to hang out with him a bit, man. I enjoyed time with him. Then we did Wacken with them in '97. We shared the same bus, and then after we got home from Wacken, it was just turn the TV on, and he was in handcuffs going away, mate.
What's your take on him? Is he just misunderstood or something else?
No, I think he has very strong beliefs and opinions that he's got a strong conviction. Like, he does what he believes in, and he doesn't back down. Not back down, but like he's not a person that says something, for fun or for whatever. Like, he's a serious person with his convictions.
He's just a serious guy. Yeah, I thought it was tragic to be honest with you, mate. I think the very talented guy.
Oh, he's one of the best. Like guitar playing and singing and songwriting, and he's just a genius. You
It took me a
know,
long time to appreciate him, though, to be honest. It was one of those things where I had to persist before I got it.
oh, really?
Yeah, don't know what it was. I remember talking to Stu about it as recently as 2017. It's only been recently that through persisting with Storm of the Light Spire, I was like, okay, it just, it happens. Sometimes there are
sure.
bands that you miss. Like some people don't understand the Pink Floyd thing, which I can't fathom, to be honest with you, because they're geniuses. But, some people don't like even the Black Sabbath thing or what have you. And it's like, but then you put on the right moment in time, the right album, it happens. And I just persisted long enough and yeah, it just sort of worked out. And then I went back and listened to the catalogue and I was like, yeah, this guy had a lot to say.
Yeah, he's one of the best lyricists as well. He just has the whole package.
Yeah. Yeah, indeed
But
he is, yeah.
it is what it is, man. I'm very lucky that 2005 I was in Norway and I went to Inferno Festival and there was Candlemass played, which is awesome. I'd never seen them before. And but then that was the first day. The next night was Dissection and Morbid Angel. And I got to see that last Dissection tour and that was awesome. But he was a different person, man. Like I hadn't seen him for 7 years, 8 years. And when I seen him, I walked up to him and he was a completely different person. Like just stone cold, like just you could tell he'd been institutionalized, you know what I mean?
Oh, really?
Well that's how it come across to me anyway. Could it maybe he just fucking went out, fucking jamming, whatever, like who knows, you know what I mean? But yeah, he just seemed to be different. And obviously, like as I said, can't speak to anything else, but yeah.
Might have been his time in there might have been very difficult, man. Yeah.
Well, as I said, mate, I don't know anything about that, but yeah, it was. But I'm just glad that I got to see him and I got to see him play because that show was amazing, but it was different. Like seeing him play back in '97 in Storm of Lights, like it was great. But yeah, this tour was, I don't know, it was really atmospheric. It come across really, really different, really dark.
Yeah,
I'm glad I got to see it.
Yeah, I noticed that toward the end there, it did get a lot darker, didn't it? Yeah, I suppose.
But yeah, just the stage presence, just everything, just the energy coming off it was just like, yeah, this is different.
Wonder what he was dabbling in at that point too. Yeah, there's some. Those who know, but if you do any journeying, you do come across some entities.
Of course, yes.
And you've got to do it in a secure, what I call a secure and a shaman, a safe environment. And if you don't, you can let some things in that don't necessarily want to go afterwards. And I wonder if that had anything to do with it.
I don't know, but I'm sure he found out.
Yeah, no question on that front. Yeah. What about, was Varg sentenced by the time you were over there?
Yeah.
So there's no interaction with him at all?
No, not at all. No, definitely not. I'd heard, I know people who know him very well, and there's always people talking stories and stuff. But yeah, I didn't get involved in any of that thing, man. It's very that's before my time, man. So
yeah. Well, have you seen the Lords of Chaos film?
Sure.
I liked it. Most people who were part of the scene tend not to, though. What were your thoughts?
It was a movie. Very, you can tell it's an American movie, a Hollywood movie. Look, yeah, I really don't have many opinions on it, mate.
I don't like it.
No, not that I don't like it. It's just, it's just, there's so many ifs, buts, ands, and stories, or who knows what, bro. You never know. So, from a story point of view, okay, it works well, and people watched it. It's a story that should be told, I suppose. But I don't know. It's a good fiction drama, I think.
It's a very compelling tale, though. I've studied screenwriting, and it's no wonder Jonas chose to do a film about it, because the whole setup was. I think it was Julie in the Hammer House that I spoke to about it, who told me about what the hell was going on in there in like 1995 or something like that. And I was like, what the? And even back then, it just sounded like to me that these were socially ostracized teenagers who probably were bullied a bit at school or what have you, and just hadn't worked out how to sort of. You got to try to fit in. Let's face it. You got to function in society, whatever society you must be part of. But these guys just didn't give a shit. And I think this is a consequence of these guys being in like a bit of an echo chamber. And I see it as a very human story, not a black metal story, about these guys within their own little cell, sort of trying to figure out who's the leader after a period of time, and then it ends in tragedy.
Yeah. As I said, man, for me, it's I wasn't there at the time. I don't know, and it's hard to talk about something that I don't know anything about.
Oh, you were there in the aftermath, though. You know what I mean? I mean, you were the guys
Sure.
that you were around. To your point, they're not even. There's no degrees of separation between the band members that you shared a stage with and those other guys.
Oh no, of course. I know that, but yeah, I don't know, man. I really don't know much about it. Look, all I heard is from whatever was portrayed on TV and magazines and stuff. I really don't know anything else.
If you could go back into when you first got on that plane to Norway, would you change anything?
Between then and now,
let's just stick to the period of time you're in Norway, because that's the really compelling part.
Yeah, I understand that,
because you've had so many journeys, but that one's so interesting.
No. Maybe. I would have liked. There's a few things. I suppose I wish it just would have worked out a lot better than it did with Dimmu. That's all. Because I think there was a lot to go between the people we had together. I think we could have done a lot of stuff. It's the only thing.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, no question about that, especially with Barker in the band.
Yeah, well, everyone, Misters, Vortex, that lineup was really good.
Yeah, you're right. And Vortex in particular, he's the bassist, right?
Yeah.
If I'm not mistaken. Yeah, good singer too, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah. Borgir.
Yes, that's right.
And Arcturus.
Yeah. Yes, of course. Yeah, they're two bands. I did speak to Lars Nedland. Did you know Lars at all?
Yeah.
Nice guy. Yeah, another nice fella. Yeah. It's tough, isn't it? Life on the road as a working musician, there's always going to be changing personnel in all of these bands, unless, well, all of them do. I'm just trying to think of one that doesn't, but even Morbid Angel have had,
there's always one or two people that always stick it out, and then they, after a while, instead of just getting people in the band, they just get people to play with them. And that's what Dimmu is now. Like, there's two guys there, and they just get people to play with them.
Yeah,
and it kind of sucks because it's not a band anymore. Then it's just every couple of years, let's put some music out and then get some people, and we'll go and play some shows. It just doesn't seem like a band. You know what I mean?
Oh, I know exactly what you're saying. Yeah,
and sometimes they'd feel obligated that that's how it has to be as well, because it's not just you in a band. You got record companies, you got management, you got crewmen. Like this, there's a whole lot of things going on. You know what I mean? So it's just like, okay, you haven't put anything out for a couple of years. What are we going to do? Oh, let's re-release something, or let's just re-record something we've already done. And then there's, okay, we'll write stuff and then do it. And then you got to get people to play it. And it just doesn't seem organic.
I don't like Lars Ulrich at all, but I could definitely empathise with his commentary. So I want to be specific. His commentary through COVID, which is that Metallica is an organisation, and it has all of these people whose families depend on them generating a wage from Metallica being active. Okay.
Yeah, sure.
And you can understand that in Dimmu's case, Cradle's perspective, you can understand in all of these individual bands. There's tour managers, booking agents, road crew, the musicians themselves, everybody that you know full well depends on these bands continuing to be a viable and an ongoing concern. And that's really what the industry is all about these days.
Oh, for sure. That's why I said, like they feel obligated to do these things. You know what I mean? It's sometimes it's not want to, it's sometimes it's have to. And I guarantee you that what comes out of a have to is a way different to a want to.
And that, I was just going to make that point. That's why I think you're in such a great position now.
Yeah, as I said, like I could have easily stayed in Norway, jumped into another band and just kept going because I needed a job or that's all I knew how to do, and then just, you know, put out stuff. I don't know. Even when I was back here, I really didn't want to. I didn't want to do it just because other people thought I had to, or I thought I was obligated to do it. You know what I mean? Now, as I said, I feel like I want to do it.
Yeah, and that'll come across in what the new Lord Kaos EP and album sound like.
Hopefully.
Yeah. No, I'm looking forward to hearing it, brother. I think it's going to be one of those moments. I think that sort of transports a few of us old fans. Sort of, how long is it now? 25 years ago, almost.
Yeah,
25 years. It's incredible to think that amount of time has gone by. But I would never have thought back in '97 and '98 that extreme metal would be as popular as what it is these days, because it was such a hard graft back then in Australia.
It was. Plus, yeah, back then, and yeah, as I said, you know, people don't realize no internet. People don't realize tape trading. People don't realize fanzines. People don't, you know what I mean? It was back then. It was, you had to trust people as well. Back then, no one trusts anybody.
Well, we've all been ripped off. God knows I've been ripped off a couple of times, mate. Just fucking frauds who just lie, bone-faced fucking liars, mate. But it's, I don't know whether it's improved or whether it's got better, worse, or whatever. But yeah, mate, that's a good question for you. Do you trust people these days after having such a long career in the music industry?
Yeah, certain people. There's still people that I trust, and there's people that I don't. But it's just something that you learn, mate. Like it's like everything else. Yeah, I'm good to trust people, but they only get one shot these days.
Yeah, same. Yeah.
Where before, you know, you give them chances and no.
They just keep proving why you shouldn't have given them chances in the first place.
Exactly.
Yeah. I'll make this. Yeah, you're right. You go.
Go, man. Go.
I was going to say, I'll make this my last question for you.
Sure, bro.
Okay. And I only say this to people who've got a really compelling story, and you're evidently one of them since I'm asking you. But, mate, when's the book coming out?
Don't know, man. Never thought about it.
You should. I mean, what you achieved. Australian Guitar Magazine and these things, they should be talking to you. They should have you on the, writing a column about extreme metal and stuff, given the amount of kids out there that play this stuff and release shit on YouTube these days. But you have got the most compelling story of any extreme metal Australian musician ever.
Well,
nobody's done what you did.
I understand that. People tell me this all the time, but I'm still not sure. Yeah, that thought has not crossed my mind whatsoever. I'd have to find someone to help me out with it.
A year, I'll pitch the idea, a year in the life, 1999 to 2000, something like that, where you just talk about your experiences on the road or on the back of a tour, this sort of thing. And I write books, and I know when you first write them, they can be sort of daunting to sort of get that 50,000 word count out, because that's about the bare minimum to sort of consider that you've got something resembling a marketable product. But I reckon if you ever were so compelled to do it, your story would be one that may even cross over, meaning it's compelling enough to say, like, publishing houses want unusual, they want abnormal. They want the bloke from Australia travelling to Norway and making it in an extreme metal band where there were no pathways. And I don't even know whether those pathways are still – I don't even think there's pathways now, yet alone back then.
It was hard, man. Even just being able to – working out how to stay in the country as well, mate. Like, I was there probably like 2 years totally illegally going in and out before I got my visas sorted out. And getting visas sorted out was hard. Well, I had to get immigration lawyer. Nobody from Australia had wanted to go to Norway to work as a musician ever before, so there was no law about it. So there was no precedent. So I had to get a lawyer who would had to write up a precedent and not get a new law passed, but kind of put it. It took months because we had to put it before not a Senate or whatever, but just immigration place. You know what I mean? And it was hard, but I like going back in all the time. They'd look at your passport and they'd go whatever. But there was one time all coming back. I can't remember from where. I'd be in and out all the time, and I'm supposed to be in for 3 months, out for 6 months, in for 3. You know what I mean? But I just kept going back and forward in because I had to. And there was one time I got stopped, and they asked me what's going on, coming in and out, and I was like, I'm just a crew member for these guys, so I always come here to pick up their stuff, and then I go on tour with them. I always come back to pack to unload their stuff, pack it back in their rehearsal studio, and then I go. I got away with it that time, but then I was like, no, man, we should do this properly. You know what I mean? And that was hard, but expensive, but it was worth it. Plus, you have to prove in Norway, if you want to get like a permanent work visa, you have to prove that no one else in that country can pretty much do the same job that you're going to do. You know, you can go there like on a backpack visa or something, work 7-Eleven for 3 months, but not if you want like a 5-year work visa. You know what I mean? It has to be. So you've got to get a lot of people saying, yes, he's the only person that can do that job, and blah, blah, blah. It was just a whole nightmare. But as I said, man, it was an experience, man. And as I said, if I ever get to it, man, who knows, maybe I could write something.
Well, you're going to lead a long life. It's just I just wanted to plant the seed. I think it's very important that these stories get told. There are so many great stories out there, and from Pete's to yours to Barker's. I was speaking to Stuart about writing I don't know what you call a compendium or what have you, but how the two Dusk and Her Embraces recorded and how Cruelty and the Beast was written.
Yeah.
People want that book to be written, but unfortunately with Stuart gone, I don't think it can happen.
Yeah.
Because he was the guy I was relying on to be, to be the executive, if you like, and to point me in the right direction after I'd written reams of words. It's a shame that these things can't happen, and that's the point, mate. It's not that we're old, but we ain't young.
Yeah, I understand that.
And I think at last count, there was something like 4 or 5 biographies from the world of extreme metal out there. There isn't any. You got Max Cavaleras and maybe a couple of Rex Browns. You got a couple of others, but these are the tales that I think need to be written. And the thing is, they're going to have to be released independently because the publishers don't give a shit. The publishers only want to know you, mate, if they might want to release Silent Oz's or Shagraths, maybe. Actually, when I spoke to Silent Oz, I asked him that, and he said too he hadn't thought about it. But
something I haven't thought about, mate. But yeah, who knows? Planting seeds is always good.
Yeah. Cam Lee has got the right idea at the minute. Have you been keeping up with what he's doing at all?
No.
So I may have planted the seed after I asked him the question, because a couple of months afterwards we were talking. No, I wasn't going to write the book, but we were just talking about the idea behind it. And then he got one of his mates nearby to ask him a bunch of questions. He's released it as a series, a podcast series. So there's also that.
Yeah,
you can do it that way as well.
Sure.
I think the point is, it's just I talk about this a fair bit, but creating legacy.
Yep.
Creating legacy so as though it's there, and mate, your accomplishments then will be there if you've got kids. Maybe you'll have grandkids and they can see what granddad did, this sort of thing. But also, too, people who get into extreme metal many years on. See, the albums that you played on, they're now part of the catalogue. You know what I'm saying? So
yeah, I understand that.
You know what I mean when I say that. So you've got the Morbid Angel album, you've got the Cannibal Corpse albums, you've got the Emperor albums, you've got the Dimmu albums. The Dimmu albums that you played on are the ones.
Yeah.
They're not the modern ones. They're the ones that you played on and probably wrote a lot of those songs. So soon, in decades' time or what have you, in the same way that people listen to Mozart and stuff, it's not out of the question that people will pick up your work and start reviewing it in a similar academic light.
Yeah, look, for sure. That's a possibility. So something to think about, man. Right now, I'm just going to, the next couple of months is going to be some hard work as well for me. So that's all I'm thinking about right now.
Yeah, it's all good, mate. I ask all the tough questions. Don't worry.
No, it was pretty easy, actually.
I try to be. Yeah, last count, I think I'm up to 900 now. Of these
I understand. Yeah, it's good, man. It's good that you're doing it.
Yeah, I'm trying to catalogue everybody that's important, to be honest, mate. I was actually going to reach out to you anyway. So when I was playing a gig, where was I? Alex Hills, and I saw your message come through. I was sitting in the car and I thought, oh shit, wow, it's you. And you sort of saved me the trouble, to be honest with you. So
no problems, man.
You know.
Yeah, mate, no, because I did interview with Arcane Archivist magazine.
Oh, yes, I've had some interactions with him online. Yeah,
yeah, and he said, "Oh man, Andrew's probably going to come hunt you down soon." I said, "Yeah, probably." But that's all right, man. As I said, as I said, I'm just trying to get everything out there, trying to get everything sorted, and I can't wait to start playing live again and put some new shit out.
Well, there he is. Hope you enjoyed that one there. I certainly did. He'd been on my radar for many, many years. I had an awareness of him, as you could hear, from way back in the day. I was just so impressed that an Australian could make their way over to Norway and participate as he did in recording and touring with the black metal bands. So, if you enjoyed that chat, there are plenty more just like it over at scarsandguitars.com, and if you like listening, perhaps you like reading. And you're in luck, therefore, because I've written a book. Click the link on the banner and the website, and you'll be taken to a marketplace of your choice. You can download a sample, and if you do complete the purchase, hit me up because I want to thank you personally. And I've got some more information to share with you about the book in the moment. But before I do, I will bid you a fond farewell. My name is Andrew Mackay-Smith, and I'm the host of the Scars and Guitars podcast. Until next time, it's a very goodbye for now.
This is Eric Rattan of Cannibal Corpse. You are listening to the Scars and Guitars podcast with Andrew Mackay-Smith.
I've been the host of the Scars and Guitars podcast since 2017. The first musician I interviewed for the show was David Vincent from Morbid Angel, and things have just snowballed from there. In all, I've posted almost 650 podcast episodes featuring conversations with many of the leading lights of rock, heavy metal, and beyond. It just got to a point where I thought, I need to write a book about all this, so that's exactly what I did. In Scars and Guitars Volume 1, you'll read a heap of deep reveals and commentary, such as Des Fafara talking about Coal Chamber and why the band will never return.
You know, if you're a band just starting out, you need to hear me. Do not start a band with partners. Ever.
Yeah, wise words there. Sage advice, mate, for anybody.
Don't ever, because I can't go do Coal Chamber right now unless I get others involved.
Phil Anselmo talks about the episode in his career which gives him the greatest sense of accomplishment.
I think the staying power of the fans and the staying power of the songs, you know, whether it's Pantera, Down, or Superjoint, the fans remember the songs.
Alex Skolnick from Testament confirms that, yes, playing the guitar in Ozzy's band is anything but an ordinary gig. Will Silenos from Dimmu Borgir write a book? Pa from Sabaton gives advice to people who want to start a band.
Look at the team around you, look at the bandmates. If the guys want to be on the stage, then it's all cool. If the guys want to be backstage, then it's not going to be cool.
Current and former members of Cradle of Filth discuss the band's seminal 90s material. Read about the reaction to George Lynch and Mark from Suicide Silence's comments when they throw shade at then President Donald Trump.
We have this idiotic monster, you know, this egotistical, self-aggrandizing, complete piece of shit in there. I just can't understand how we've gotten to this place.
And yeah, we kicked a hornet's nest with Sepultura. Percussive overlord Gene Hoglan talks about recording with Chuck Schuldiner.
Chuck was always, he was very open-minded, and he was into having his musicians that were playing with him just reach out for the best stuff that they had.
Phil Campbell from Motorhead discusses what it takes to get sober. John Five answers his critics who dismiss his tenure with Marilyn Manson.
my name is Jon Nödtveidt, and Manson gave me that name, and I had some of the best years of my life in that band and learned a lot.
And we get the lowdown on Treyarch Zagtoth from those who would know, including his mother. All across Scars and Guitars Volume 1, there are moments of tension, relief, tragedy, exhilaration, and throughout it all, you'll obtain insight that I believe no one else has managed to obtain from many of your favourite artists. So treat yourself. Scars and Guitars Volume 1 is currently available as an ebook with a print edition on the horizon. Follow the links attached and download a sample. I'm sure you'll be compelled to read the whole book.